Hey, welcome to Waiting on the Lord. Today is March 5th, 2023. There's a bunch of things I want to talk about today. First, I want to say we are saved by God's grace alone, by believing in Jesus Christ, believing that Jesus Christ came here for us, He died for us, and He rose again. We aren't saved by works. I know some of the stuff I say surrounding, I believe it's always good to help people. So anyone that says, well, that's works, well, I encourage people to help people because that's being Christian, isn't it? I just want to explain something that happened to me first. Yesterday, and this is about helping other people, okay? I walked to my dad's place, and he wasn't there, and so I was walking back. So I walked to his house, and I was walking back, and I passed a street where I used to deliver newspapers when I was a child, like 30 years ago plus. And there was a pickup truck, and it was a pretty big pickup truck, and it was stuck in the snow. He backed up out of its driveway and just hooked up, and it lifted up the tire so it couldn't move. So right away, and I remembered who he was because he still lives there from that time. I went directly and I helped him, and I shoveled it out, and I got him out, and he didn't know who I was. And all of a sudden, another person, while I'm helping him dig it out, came up, and I knew who this person was, and I'll tell you in a second. His name was Saul, actually, and I recognized who it was, and I'm like, this is just really weird. So there were the three of us, and so we get the truck out. And I'm going to backtrack here for a second. My mother died almost 5.5 years ago, and before she died, I was in such bad shape. At that time, I was 95 pounds because I couldn't eat, and but I still wanted to do something for my mom before she died because I'd been so sick I hadn't been able to do anything. And I did a biking tour for my mom, despite the shape I was in, and I biked 1,000 kilometers. I canvassed all the streets around my parents' house because I was living there, and they gave me money. And there are people in particular who I remember were very, very kind to me, like very good to me. And this Saul person, he wanted to help me more than just giving money. Like, he was a really nice guy. He wanted to help me. He probably felt sorry for me. That's probably why most of these people gave money. But there I was, and the other person who gave me money was the person I was digging out, and I forgot. And when the truck finally came out and we started talking together, it came into my mind. These people were so good to me, and here I am, and I'm able to help this person. I don't say it as works. I say it as, those types of things are normal things that should come to people to want to help another person. Not works. You're not saved by works. And also with that, I have to say, and I've looked into this a lot. It says 4 times in the Bible, if not 4 times that I've seen. It says it in, I believe, John. It says it in the end of Revelations twice. Where else? And Paul talks about it, that when we are judged, we will be judged for the good and bad things done in the body. So what does that mean? And what they explain it as, or people, pastors, is that those are people who are saved who they're talking about. So we're already saved by believing in Jesus Christ, right? Not of works. But when they say Jesus is still going to judge us for the good and bad things that we've done, because in the 1,000-year reign and in heaven, whatever, we don't know exactly. Is there a government? It seems as though there's going to be some type of government. God's going to give us responsibilities, Jesus. And so the things we do now build up treasures in heaven. All I'm saying is be good to people. That's it. And I was watching, if you watched the pastor DTBM, I forget what his initials stand for, but stop the lust of the eyes, stop the warring on the soul of lust, stop those things so you can just live a straight life and never turn back to that kind of life again. I sinned a lot in my life. I wasn't a bad person, but I sinned a lot. And I can tell you, I never want to turn back to that kind of garbage again. I want to build these things in heaven. I want to build treasures. So, pardon one sec. I'm going to start this here. News stories. I know I go off topic and I don't cover just news stories. I think pretty soon I will. I'm just going to cover news stories because people seem a lot interested in that. But I like throwing these kinds of things in. Right now, there seems to be the U.S. eye in the sky. The U.S. Doomsday plane flies to Europe. So I'm reading an article here. The E-6B Mercury Air Command post has landed in Iceland to conduct operations in Washington's European Command Zone. The U.S. Navy's key aircraft in case of nuclear war has landed in Iceland. The U.S. European Command, EUCOM, reported on Tuesday, shortly after, I think this is RT, after Russian President Vladimir Putin signed into law Moscow's suspension of the New START nuclear treaty. So, according to a post on the command Twitter account, the crew of the E-6B Mercury assigned to U.S. Strategic Command, Wing 1, met with the U.S. ambassador to Iceland as well as other diplomatic and military leaders. The aircraft is conducting operations in the EUCOM area of responsibility, according to the statement. The E-6B Mercury aircraft is commonly referred as a Doomsday plane, because it's designed to serve as an airborne command post in the event of an all-out nuclear war, disaster, or other large-scale conflict. According to the Pentagon, the plane allows the U.S. command to communicate with both strategic and non-strategic weapon systems. I'm going to get into a weapon system, okay, after this, making it possible to launch ground and submarine-based ballistic missiles capable of carrying nuclear warheads. The news came just after Moscow sent Washington an official note on the suspension of Russia's participation in the New START treaty. So the treaty was supposed to limit both nations' nuclear stockpiles and allow each to monitor the opposing arsenal to confirm compliance. So the U.S. is just pushing them into war. And what I'm talking about is the military-industrial complex. You should know that by now. They're money-hungry people. However, both Moscow and Washington have accused the other of failing to adhere to the agreement to allow such inspections. Moscow outlines conditions for unfreezing nuclear deal. Putin announced the temporary suspension of the treaty last week, accusing the U.S. of trying to refashion the international order to suit its selfish interests, and of demanding that Russia abide by treaties while they do as they please. The president also pointed to statements made by Western leaders that they wish to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia and openly aiding attempt Ukrainian drone attacks of Russia's strategic aviation bases. They are directing all these attacks. They can't win against Russia. They can't win against Russia. I've seen so many documentaries that they just can't do it, and they have endless amounts of men if they want. They have factories that can turn out so much and is turning out so much. Before Moscow can resume observing the treaty, Putin said it must have a clear idea of NATO's nuclear arsenal, including weapons held by the UK, France, and who he said are welcome to join the pact. You know what? I don't want to take sides, but it doesn't look like the Western is the West wants peace. It doesn't seem that way, does it? Pardon me a sec. I think it's very clear, to me anyway, that Vladimir Putin is looking for some type of peace deal. I don't know how that would ever work, but okay. I hear people talking on the radio about how Russia has more nukes than the US, but it's basically on par. So they have like 500 more or something. It's at a number that it doesn't even matter. The US, China, UK, France, Israel, Pakistan, and India all have MAD, mutual assured destruction, which means if you take out someone's missile silos, they all have nuclear submarines and bombers. It's called the nuclear triad. And submarines are extremely hard to take out and they're very hard to take out. People think Russia has the deadliest weapons being nuclear, but I disagree for these reasons, and I'm very aware of the Poseidon weapon. The US has 14 Ohio-class nuclear submarines, the deadliest nuclear subs ever made. So let me see here. 192 warheads one submarine can carry, can destroy 192 cities with just one sub, and they have 14 of them. Don't be tricked about the US might versus Russia. The Russian hypersonic missiles is just, for me right now at this point in time, posturing. They don't have a lot of them. You may not agree, but tell me, how do you stop a nuclear missile from a sub that it goes up into space and it re-enters the atmosphere at Mach 24, much faster than those hypersonic missiles? That's much faster than so fear weapons is what hypersonic missiles are. Sure, they are powerful and they're hard to stop, but the US will catch up. I don't know why they haven't been doing a lot with that. Imagine if Elon Musk got into weaponry. He put a poll asking people if he should make weapons when the Ukraine war began. They're using his Starlink, making him flip the bill, and he took a stance saying he didn't sign up for killing. When they talk about the Poseidon weapon, they say that any nuclear missile, so when you hear that is a terrifying sounding weapon, but any nuclear missile can be programmed to explode in the ocean and cause a tsunami. So I'm going to tell you about the Ohio-class submarine. It will serve until the end of the 2020s and may even receive additional acoustic stealth upgrades. Let me get right into it. Estimated cost of $4 to $6 billion each. The next generation boomers may have fewer number. 9 years after the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Honda's Godzilla depicted a monster awakened from the depths of the ocean to wreak havoc on Japanese cities. A giant fire-breathing reptile, however, was less horrifying than what was to come. In less than a decade's time, there would be dozens of real undersea beasts capable of destroying multiple cities at a time. I'm referring to, of course, ballistic missile submarines, or boomers. Yeah, let me get right to this. The most deadly of the real-life kaiju, which is Godzilla, prowling the oceans today are the 14 Ohio-class ballistic missile submarines, which carry upwards of half of the United States nuclear arsenal on board. So I'm telling you this to show you that the West has deterrence, very powerful deterrence. When you speak of North Korea, Russia, and Iran and all these places, the U.S. is very powerful, okay? and they have these for a reason. If you do the math, the Ohio-class boats may be the most destructive weapon system created by mankind. Each of the 170-meter-long vessels can carry 24, each one of them. Each sub can carry 24 Trident II submarine-launched ballistic missiles, SLBMs, which can be fired from underwater to strike at targets more than 7,000 miles away, depending on the load. As Trident II re-enters the atmosphere at speeds of Mach 24, it splits up into 8 independent re-entry vehicles, each with a 100 or 475 kiloton nuclear warhead. In short, a full salvo from an Ohio-class submarine, which could be launched in less than 1 minute, could unleash up to 192 nuclear warheads to wipe 24 cities off the map. I think it's more than that. I think it's 192. This is a nightmarish weapon of the apocalypse. The closest competitor to the Ohio class is Russia's sole remaining Typhoon class submarine. They made a massive submarine, a larger vessel with 20 ballistic missile launch tubes. However, China, Russia, India, England, and France all operate multiple ballistic missile subs with varying missile armaments. That's Israel too, and Pakistan. And even a few such submarines would suffice to annihilate the major cities in a developed nation. What possible excuse is there for such monstrous nation-destroying weaponry? The logic of nuclear deterrence, while a first strike might wipe out a country's land-based missiles and nuclear bombers, it's very difficult to track a ballistic missile submarine patrolling quietly in the depths of the ocean. And there's little hope of taking them out in a first strike. Thus, ballistic missile submarines promise the unstoppable hand of nuclear retribution and should deter any sane adversary from attempting a first strike or resorting to nuclear weapons at all. At least that's the hope. As such, the Trident-armed Ohio-class submarines will have succeeded in their mission if they never fire their weapons in anger. Let's get to... I'm not going to read the whole thing here. So you can hear the power of it, right? So they can go under the water for 4 months. Where is that part? Okay. So the current plan is to keep 12 Ohio-class subs active at any one time with it says 20 Trident IIs each, while 2 more boomers remain in overhaul, keeping a total of 240 missiles active at one time, with 1,090 warheads between them. Don't worry, restless hawks. That's still enough to destroy the world several times over. So if that, I don't know, that's not going to give you peace or anything, but just know that that when they threaten all this type of stuff at sea, there are like 8 Ohio-class submarines, each one of them with 24 missiles, and each of those missiles can break up into 8 pieces, so each submarine has 192 warheads. What happens in war, what I find out, it's always been a game of sword versus shield, right? And we live in a time of deception. We live in a great time of deception. So when you hear on the news, oh, you know, Russia has this or that, it's always been that way. It was like Sputnik, right? They made the fear so big. Nuclear weapons are scary. I know that. So I'll get to my next thing here. I see how much time I have. I wrote a thing about China too, about how China is killing the West, killing people in the West, and just my breath, just what they're doing in general. I just marked the California weather. They've really been getting it, eh? Since last summer, with that 1,200-year record drought. Now, they're getting mudslides. I heard they just got 15 feet. Imagine getting 15 feet of snow, but I think that's in the mountains. But, there are certainly people that live there. I heard a lot of people being like cars buried, houses buried. Snowfall in the mountains, never have they got that much snow. But the silver lining, and I saw an article, was that their water basins, remember like Lake Mead and all that stuff, are being filled, and they're being filled more than it was. It could be the most they've had in years. The weather sure seems to be focused on California, doesn't it? And in the summer, when they were having that drought, and for that matter, many places, when you think of it, there's like how many people in California? There's like almost as many people as there is in Canada, where I live. And so I made sure to pray so they could get rain, and they did get, because I prayed. Earthquakes are so obvious and normal now. There were 3 of them in 3 days. So we hear this stuff is so normal now. It wasn't like this. And people might say, well, you just weren't paying attention to them before. And I think what the thing is that the earthquakes above 5. So that may be true. There may have been a lot of earthquakes, say, for the last 20 years. But I think what they're saying is there is more. There are more, but the area that can't be disputed is, I think, 5.5 and above, or 5 and above. So the other day there was an earthquake in Vanuatu, and that was 6.6 or 7. And then the next day there were, I think they said, 2 of them in New Zealand at 6.2. So these things are just coming one after the other. You know the song "Lord and Father of Mankind," where it says that God speaks through the earthquake, wind, and fire, because that's what God does, right? Like the Book of Kings, God uses brutal nations to cause repentance. North America and many other parts of the world are lucky when it comes to earthquakes. Knock on wood. It's lucky that they're in diverse places, right? Vladimir Putin just threatened to use a nuclear weapon on Yellowstone National Park. So I had to look that up quickly to see what would happen. Could that actually make it go up in like a massive geyser volcano, whatever it does? And from what I could see, it said it wouldn't, unless it managed to collapse the calderas, like the big, like the big caverns that hold the lava. But to actually make it erupt, you'd need probably 1,000 of them. I just want to finish this off quick. That's all I have for today. Just pardon me a second. I want to take a sip of water here. It takes me a bit to swallow. By the way, I just want to say my heart goes out to people who have mental and physical pain. I suffer with both, and so when I say a prayer, my prayer goes out to the people who have mental and physical pain, disabilities, troubles, whatever. Because I certainly go through that on a daily basis. I just wanted to read. I think in every video I'm gonna put a bit of the Bible. This is Kings. I think this is 2 Kings 6. No, I may be wrong. I don't know where it is, but this is a part with Elijah. And the king of Israel sent to the place which the man of God told him and warned him of, and saved him there, not once nor twice. Therefore the heart of the king of Syria was sore troubled for this thing. And he called the servants and said unto them, will you not show me which of us is for the king of Israel? I think he thought he was being set up. And one of his servants said, none, my lord, O king, but Elisha the prophet that is in Israel telleth the king of Israel the words that thou speakest in thy bedchamber. And he said, go and spy where he is, that I may send and fetch him. And it was told him, saying, behold, he is in Dothan. Therefore sent he hither horses, chariots, and a great host, and they came night and compassed the city about. And when the servant of the man of God was risen early and gone forth, behold, a host compassed the city, both with horses and chariots. And his servant said unto him, alas, my master, how shall we do? And he answered, fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them. So there was a lot of them. I forget who they're talking about, maybe the Syrians? And Elisha prayed and said, Elijah, Lord, I don't know if that's Elijah, I believe that's Elijah or Elijah or Elisha. I'm going to have to look again. But I think it's Elijah. And said, Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And the Lord opened his eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots, of fire round about Elisha. And when they came down to him, Elisha prayed unto the Lord and said, smite this people, I pray thee, with blindness. And he smote them with blindness according to the word of Elisha. And Elisha said unto them, this is not the way, neither is this a city. Follow me, and I will bring you to the man whom you seek. But he led them to Samaria. I just wanted to read that part because I like parts where the Lord is with you all around. I'm going to have to look if that's Elisha or Elijah, because sometimes they use words. I'll have to look. I don't know. I'm going to have to look again. Thanks for watching today's video. Actually, I will, if I have enough time, I'll say a prayer. So I get those two mixed a lot, and sometimes it's written in the New Testament, Elias. So, Lord, I pray for everyone in this room. And like I said just not long ago there, that everyone who watches my videos who suffers from physical and mental pain and just going through a hard time, because it's a hard time right now. It's a hard time. What I can say is, for the people who are having a very hard time, for everyone, I say it for everyone, but it especially goes true for the people who are suffering, like myself. Lord, please come quickly. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from every evil in our days. Amen. Thanks for watching my video. Please comment, share, and subscribe. I'm going to have to look that up now.